Three Grots in a Vox is intended for a mature audience. This means there will be crude language and discussions of adult themes, especially if we're talking about Tactical Marines or Gabriel Seth. Viewer discretion is not only advised but encouraged. All opinions are our own and often given for humorous purposes. Any advice is given largely for entertainment purposes and would probably be ignored. But if you do learn something useful, count it as a win. Back nipples.
Yeah, that's getting cut.
No, we'll leave that in there. Well, you said in the last episode, at some point in the episode, someone's going to say back nipples. So I've got it out of the way right at the beginning.
How long have you been planning to do that for?
At least 20 minutes.
It's been a joke you've been percolating on for like...
I have, yeah. Well, you've got to get a good joke out right at the beginning. So, we are three Grots in your Vox. Not just any Vox, yours. I'm talking directly to you. At home. Listening to this.
Please
We're in your Vox. That's creepy, isn't it? I hope so. Today, we are talking about getting started with 40k armies. So, we get asked quite often about how we can get started in different sorts of armies and that. I know I run a club at school and a lot of the kids are going, how do I get started? And I'm like, first you win the lottery. But we thought it'd be good to try and address this problem. Now, we argued about it for a while and we thought, what army are we going to start with? And Mark wanted to do Gene Stealer cults, but then we realised that nobody likes them, so we didn't. We thought about Flesh Terrors for a while, but again... So we've got started with Blood Angels, and we have made an PowerPoint. You can tell I'm a teacher because we made a PowerPoint. Although, again, anybody who's ever been taught by me knows I never use a PowerPoint or plan anything. So, over to the Blood Angels commander himself. Show us slide one of our PowerPoint.
Can I ask why PowerPoint was...
Because we're cheap.
Well, we could have made a PowerPoint and then taken a JPEG screenshot of it and done it in that way, and that could have just been equally as cheap.
Wildly unnecessary.
Can
Are you
I ask...
going to make it like display mode, or are you just going to leave it with the border around it? We're a high quality production.
Really? Is your screen, Tony? Because let me just count the spelling errors. Hold on.
You are looking to become the chief video editor on this podcast. You are more than welcome. I thought it was a podcast. I thought you were supposed to listen to it. And number two, why is PowerPoint Anne? I mean, you're the teacher. Anne PowerPoint?
I'm a physics teacher. That means we don't have to use good English stuff.
Yeah, so you just said fuck it when it comes to spelling and pronunciation. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. Right, so this is our first slide. Whose slide is this? It is...
Tony all the time.
It is backslide. Well, I'm not allowed to say that. I'm like, I am your Lord God, Commander of the Imperium. Well, the kids aren't supposed to know your first name. Although everyone does, because it's written on our badges, so I'm not sure how that can be hidden. For beer fans, today we're going with the local Papworth Brewery again with a bottle of Citrabalt. It's got a bit of sediment at the bottom though, so it's going to give me an appalling headache for when I teach tomorrow. But that's all right, because none of my students should be watching this. We've got a disclaimer. What are you drinking? Is that the mead again?
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Why?
Right, come on. Actually, yeah, can we see this? Can we record this? Can you all see us? Can we see the PowerPoint?
Everyone can see the PowerPoint. Everyone, unfortunately, can see and hear you as well. You are a melon.
That's my insult of the day. I'm an 11-year-old. Call another 11-year-old. Just turn round, cold as you like. You're a melon. And then just walk off.
Okay. So I took this challenge. I took this challenge to try and... how to get started with Blood Angels on a budget, I guess, was my challenge. So I took a bunch of units, tried to go to 1,000 points. I actually did a video on this before, maybe like 6 months ago. So kind of tried to take a fresh take on it. What I would do to get to 1,000 points if I was, doing it now. And trying to keep the price reasonable. I mean, that's kind of difficult. I didn't expect 1,000 points to come out at £175, and that is from... I pulled all these prices from like Element Games. So I guess if you were buying this from Games Workshop, just add on 20%, right?
That's cheating. That is cheating.
Why?
Well, I use official Games Workshop prices, so now mine
you're a melon,
Yeah, I mean, like, as much as I like...
How come he come in cheaper than me?
As much as I like Games Workshop, on 1,000 points.
Buy off them if there's like a ridiculously good deal on.
The only reason you've put that on Element Games because you get a kickback.
Well, no, I haven't even shared my Element Games link. I mean, we should have one for this channel. But what I'm saying is,
on that note, subscribe, and leave a comment below.
And John's Element Game link is in the description.
Yeah, something.
Yeah, I mean, 20 quid is 20 quid. So people always tell me I'm tight. I'm tight, okay? If I can save any money, I'll save any money. So, 1 box of infiltrators for your troops, and that lets you build 2 5-man incursor squads. I think you actually have to search for infiltrators. I don't think they call them incursors, right? So, like, you buy the box of infiltrators, but you make them as 2 incursors. And I guess this starts you off on, like, a patrol detachment, essentially. Yeah. In a detachment, you will need 1 HQ, so I thought...
So much more thought than me into this. Oh, God.
Why don't we take the Primaris Chaplain on a bike? Because he can be kind of awesome. Obviously, you can't buy a captain on a bike, and, like, if you're getting started, you don't want to be fucking around trying to... do a conversion or something. So Primaris Chaplain on a bike, nice and simple. You can upgrade him so you can do 2 litanies, 140 points, $25. 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard. They are our best unit. They do die like so fast, but they do a ton of damage. So I actually don't know if you get 3 axes in the box, but if you do get 3 axes, I would make them with 3 axes. It might have to be 2 axes and 3 swords. I've heard some people complain about the number of axes you get in the Sanguinary Guard box.
Well, you don't get enough axes or swords to do one or the other.
Yeah.
You get like 3 swords and 2 axes.
That's a little bit annoying if you're like massively OCD.
Yeah, so something like this, I guess. If you have to go 3 swords and 2 axes each squad, it's not the end of the world. And I would put 1 Infernal Pistol in there because I like them. I know they're swingy, but, you know, sometimes they swing 8 damage for you, so that's useful. I also think the Redemptor... Apparently I can't spell Onslaught, so don't make fun of me. I think the Redemptor is still a really good model. You know, a lot of people are running Contemptors. Some people are considering Leviathans. I mean, the Redemptor doesn't cost you any CP to include. It's got a bunch of different weapon options. It's got the Fist, which kind of merges with Blood Angels, really, in that, like, the Fist is super strong, D3+3. If you're running a 1,000-point game, you're probably going to be able to get in combat with the Redemptor due to the smaller board size. Sorry. You laughing at me, sir?
Why are you giggling? Why are you giggling?
I'm giggling because yesterday I watched the new series of the He-Man Master of the Universe on Netflix, and Fisto turned up, and he wanted to give Skeletor a really good fisting. And he said it on the cartoon. I'm really sorry.
Okay, continue. And then the last thing...
The level of professionalism on this show just astounds me.
The last thing I want to talk about then is my Whirlwind, and I don't know, did either of you guys watch the battle that I had against Knights this week with the Whirlwind?
It wasn't really a battle though, was it?
It was not a battle at all, but do you know what? The Whirlwind is a really interesting model, right? Because, like, a lot of people, when I include it, you know, you always see someone comes into live chat and is like, a Whirlwind? Is that competitive? You know, what's that doing in this list? And it's like, well, against the Knights, it completely fucked Andrew over because it was like, he didn't get to shoot Overwatch any time with his Knights. And then if he wants to charge me with his god-awful Knights as well, then I'll fight first. And I know it's 1 CP to do it, but it's just such a reliable strat. And I want to say, like, the tournament that I was at recently, the GT, in 2 or 3 of the games, the Whirlwind was invaluable. Especially like when I was going to go in, like there's a unit of like 9 crisis suits from Tau. Like, how the hell are you charging that? Do you know what I mean? And as much as like some games, the Whirlwind just hangs back and does not all that much. In other games, it's worth its weight in gold, and it does always just sit and hold an objective. So, in this case, I've put the Vengeance Launcher on it, just because otherwise I'd got to 990 points, and I couldn't figure out how to add 10 more points to this. But normally I think the Castellan Launcher for 125 points is fine. So if I was getting started with Blood Angels, and I was on a budget, and I wanted something competitive, then I think this is what I would run. I mean, I don't know how competitive it is, because I haven't run it myself, but I feel like this is a pretty decent patrol detachment for $175. $200, I guess, if you buy it from Games Workshop.
I think that's fair enough. I like the way you've gone. Yeah, we're talking about, you know, starting up, being a beginner, and you're like, no, win.
That's what I do. I do competitive. So I thought this was actually good because I figured neither of you guys would go so competitive, and one of you guys might go fluffy. So I figured we'd get 3 different approaches for starting an army.
I mean, it's certainly a focused approach. Give you that. It plays to all of your strengths.
And it's got whirlwind.
And a whirlwind. Yeah, and I mean, you could build this into like my tournament list. You know, like half the stuff is just going to be able to drop into 2,000 point army as well.
Have you literally just got your tournament list and binned half of it off?
Well, no, because I wasn't running 10 Sanguinary Guard until recently, but I mean, it keeps coming up on my channel. I mean, I've got a fever. The only thing that can cure it is more Sanguinary Guard. If we ever meet,
you do a good Walken accent, because I don't.
Well, I don't either.
I'd like to. It's a good one.
But I guess if we ever meet up in real life, then we need to replicate this skit from Saturday Night Live. One of you two is to be Will Ferrell.
I think Mark's got that one down.
As and when we get together and meet up, and it's going to be a fucking shit show. Something's going to get wrecked. I'm not sure.
Because it's not a shit show when we do it digitally.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I'm running more Sanguinary Guard in this, but I think, do you know what, Sanguinary Guard probably are even stronger in 1,000 points than they are in 2,000 points, because people will typically have smaller units and they'll just wreck them.
Yeah, even 5 Sanguinary Guards going to kill most things you meet at 1,000 points.
Yeah, exactly. So I figured this was a nice way to get started if you want to get straight into the competitive side of things. And I would recommend all these units even in 2,000 point games. Even though I don't run some of them in 2,000 point games at the moment, like the Primaris Chaplain on the bike, I have run him. I think he can be very good. And then he's also running high tier Blood Angels lists in the US. You know, the guy, Jack, who's usually getting like top 3 finishes in the US, is running that Chaplain on the bike.
Does he sponsor us? Do we get a kickback every time his name gets mentioned these days?
Maybe that's how it works. So if we keep plugging his army...
Apparently he's moved to Black Templars now.
Well, I don't blame him.
BAC.
Actually, I do blame him.
3 Grots and a Vox, as done in partnership with Art of War podcast or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that who he's from?
It's Art of War, yeah.
Shows how much I pay attention to the US competitive scene. Or actually, to be honest, the UK competitive scene. I don't.
Yeah, I know, I don't pay all that attention either, but I pay attention to...
Especially after I've got the hump, because we couldn't get on that doubles tournament.
That was annoying. That was very annoying. Oh, I wonder if the ticket's available now.
Just talk amongst yourselves while Mark looks up tickets on... Should we go on to the next slide?
I was going to say, whose slide do we want to do next? Yours?
I think we'll do mine.
Okay.
Because it's number 2.
Seems
and
fair.
anything else would... I put effort into this. Look, I've got pink.
Yep, you went...
That's a horrible colour. Ooh, God.
I like it.
Wow, okay, fair enough.
Says a lot about me. So, naturally, John went with competitive, and I just went with what's as Blood Angels-y as possible. I didn't really worry about anything else. I just thought I want to have a proper Blood Angels army. Now, I'm old and sad, and that means that I've read pretty much every little bit of fluff that I can find. And if you roll back, it's always been 4 Blood Angels. These days, everyone's like, oh, melee, always be charging. But if you roll back, they really were a combined armed force. And it was all about they were very, very balanced. And then when people weren't paying any attention, they went all vampire and ate people. So that's what I've gone with here. So naturally, I wanted to bring in what makes Blood Angels, what feels Blood Angels. So I'm going to start off with the Librarian Dreadnought. It's a great kit. You get the Librarian Dreadnought, you get the Death Company Dreadnought, and you get a Furioso. Don't run that shit. And it gives us started with our HQ. Now, unlike John, I'm not worried about competitive, which means I've gone pure Vanguard. This is just a Vanguard detachment.
Vanguard detachments can be competitive, though.
Yeah, but it's I wouldn't want to play against it, if I'm honest.
Okay.
But anyway, so what's the next thing? Death Company. It's got to be Death Company. 5 of them. I can't remember if I stuck a Thunderhammer in there or not. You can if you like. But really, I just wanted some angry Marines to fly along with the jump packs. Make sure they've got the jump packs. Don't run them on foot unless you're a flesh terror. And if you're a flesh terror, you're probably not watching this because we offended all one of you last lesson. Or lesson? Oh, dear, you can tell I'm a teacher. Last episode. So, so without any flesh terrors, make sure you got jump packs.
Do you offend your kids often during the lessons?
Yeah, I go out of my way.
Okay.
Yeah, if I haven't made somebody cry during a day, it's been a bad day. Nobody likes a physics teacher. Now, after the Death Company, I thought, what else is Blood Angels? It's got to be some Sanguinary Guards. There's a little unit of 5 of them. Now, this is something where I have differed a little bit from Blood Angels Commander because I didn't want to have this. This is your very first experience of Blood Angels. I don't know, but if you're like me, you like painting and you like the modelling side of it. And I didn't want to have people doing too much of the same thing. So I've not gone with any more than one other thing. So now we've got a nice little unit of Sanguinary Guard. They're really effective and they're very, very classic Blood Angels since they've existed, even though they've not been around for all that long. Then what else have I got here? I'm just trying to look at it because it's very, very small. Roll back in our fluff. Something that we like doing is flying. Sanguinius could fly, so we like to fly. So I've embroidered a Storm Talon gunship. Again, not the most competitive choice, but very Blood Angels-y. We like our flyers. I would put Storm Raven in there, but they're too shit even for me. Rolling on that kind of sticking with the Blood Angels theme, we've got the Redemptor Dreadnought. Same reason that John's got Redemptor Dreadnought. They are very Blood Angels-y. They are very good. We traditionally ran a lot of Dreadnoughts. Now, that was partially because we had a very extended lifespan, which meant that we worked well in Dreadnoughts. Redemptor doesn't have that, but we'll pretend it does. And it's a really nice kit, and it's a lot of fun to build and paint.
And it's £6 more expensive on your list. So,
and it's £6 more expensive on my list because I'm not a cheapskate and I didn't go Element Games because I might be in another country and have to go on Games Workshop. Yeah,
fair enough.
It's a fairer list of prices.
At which point, why are they all in GBP?
Shut up. So, the last choice that I really went with was a squad of Terminators. Now, if you've been in the game for a long time, you'll remember Space Hulk. And Space Hulk was the squad of Terminators against all those Gene Stealers. And that image is stuck in my head. I mean, you're unlikely to get the Space Marine Hero Genes, Space Marine Heroes Terminators. If you can, you're a lucky, lucky person. Or even for the Space Hulk models. Again, if you can, you are a lucky, lucky person. But even the standard Terminators are great models. They still hold up today. You can go with the Assault variant if you like. They are Blood Angels specific. But for me, it's all about traditional Terminators, kitting them up like Space Hulk and stomping them around. In game, you can teleport them down. They can hold objectives. And then the nearest thing we've got to an objective holder in this list. So that's what I went with. Fluff all the way. Whatever the cool models that I wanted to paint were. I couldn't fit Mephiston in, but he's my next purchase because he's an awesome model again. Yeah.
I like the classic Terminators with the Storm Bolters. The Chain Fists, I think, are much better.
They are in game, certainly.
Yeah. But I mean, like, you're. It's surprising how much those old Terminators will kill with those Storm Bolters. If you come up against Toughness 3 armies.
Well, they put a lot of fire out for them. And the Assault Cannon's not bad in there either, because unlike Assault Cannons on some other things, it's not outrageously priced. I still think it's a little bit overcosted, but 10 points is all right. I wouldn't go with the Cyclone. I think it's too expensive.
I agree.
Disagree with me. But I think 25 points for a Cyclone is just too much.
Yeah, no, I ran them with in my GT list. I ran 4 of them with Storm Bolters, the Assault Cannon, and then 4 with Chain Swords. Obviously, for some reason, the Sergeant can't take a Chain Sword, so he has a Power Sword, Chain Fist. Sorry, but yeah, I mean your list.
That's generally how I run them as well.
I mean, once you take the 10%, 20% off the Element Games offers, it's the same price. So, I mean, what's the advantage of my list over your list? I guess would be like you have a couple more.
Beat it in a fight.
Would it?
Well, you've got that fight last with the Whirlwind. You've got arguably a better character. My Libby Dread's great for just smashing something, but he's actually a little bit fragile. Although he's got the -1 damage. Stick Iron Resolve on him, that can make him a little bit tougher. It's not a bad list. I think this will be a good one to play. I think you'd have a lot of fun with it. I think you'd win a lot with it, and it's going to teach you a lot of the different aspects of the game if you're new to it.
Yeah,
There's a bit of everything, and there's a bit of shooting, a bit of stabbing, a bit of psychic.
It's a bit like if a Land Raider was an army list. Does a bit of everything all over the place. Yeah.
But it's in absolutely no way. Although it's all elites, it's not skewed in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's fair.
I mean, I kind of like it. I think that in 1,000 points, you should have varied units to get started with. I probably just haven't over.
Most of that would form a good basis to test and play, and find out what you enjoy playing and how things do play to expand out into 2,000 points.
I'm more thinking of starting your Blood Angels collection than a specific army. If you want to have a big shelf of Blood Angels that you're going to build out and you're going to try things out and stuff, this will give you a bit of everything to get yourself started, and then you can go whichever way you want from there.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that you have some core things in there. I do think like the Redemptor, the Sanguinius Guard are super core. To a certain extent, the Death Company is kind of, a lot of people rate it very highly. Even if it isn't as good as it might be in the future, I think Death Company Marines will come back into the meta at some point. They ebb and flow, don't they? And then, like I said,
they're part of the soul of the Blood Angels when you get right down.
And that's what they're there for. They're not there because they're the most effective choice we have at the moment. They're there because you think Blood Angels, you think Death Company.
Mm-hmm. And I guess if you talk about painting, then this is a cool list because you get to paint the Black Death Company, you get to paint the Gold Sanguinius Guard, you get to paint the Red Librarian and Terminators, I guess, and then go to town with whatever. So you keep. I like your thought. You're never painting too many. If you're new to the hobby, you're jumping around, you're keeping things fresh.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Mark, let's see what you've come up with. Let's see your 1,000-point getting started list.
Yeah.
And there you go. You've completely missed the point, haven't you?
Totally. If I'd have actually bothered to read the sort of things that you guys were putting together before 2 hours ago, then I might have come up with something that was much more like what you guys are doing, yeah. But I actually thought, and here's the process behind this.
Okay.
Rather than come up with a 1,000-point list that people could use to get started with Blood Angels, I'd rather go through the process with which I would use to form the basis of an army so that you could apply this to any army you wanted to do and think of the logic and reasoning behind it and build your own 1,000 points.
Nice save.
It's not save, that's the whole idea.
That was a 6+ save.
Yeah.
Yeah. Caught it on the in-bomb.
Yeah, so I'm coming at this with a point of view of you may be new to getting started with Blood Angels, but you know Warhammer. You've got some experience with the game, you know what's going on, you've either played other armies before, or you've got at least some idea of what's going on. You've got all the rules that you need to hand, which are listed up there in the Getting Started with Blood Angels book. Book, spreadsheet, panel thing. PowerPoint, that's what it is, what's it? Yeah. And you want to be... My point of view is very simple in that everything that I buy has to have a use. In that I'm not buying it necessarily to sit pretty on the shelf and be painted unless it's like really friggin' special. If it could
Hang on, don't you own Sanguinius?
Literally what I was just about to come to and say in that case. If it's an incredibly special case model like Sanguinius, who any fan of the Blood Angel really should own because it's Sanguinius, even though he's never going to see play on the 40k game table because he's deader than a can of spam. Yeah. I want to be able to buy models that I'm going to see use of and that aren't just going to be sitting around gathering dust like most of the models in this cabinet behind me at this particular moment right here. So to do that, I want to build my list with an eye to expanding it out to 2,000 points, to finding out what works, what doesn't work, finding out how to build on what you've got. You're going to have to swap things out. You're going to have to replace them with new things when you find things don't work or when the meta shifts or when something becomes better or worse. And to that end, I prefer working off the basis of a battalion detachment because that, for me, is a solid basis of 2,000 points. You've got a decent amount of all the relevant slots that we need in a battalion detachment. It maximizes the amount of CP you can use. So you're starting with a basis of 2 HQ units and 3 troops units. You can decide what those are based on what you like or what you want or what you feel is interesting from the rules that you've got access to and what's currently going on in the game. For me, in particular, that would be, on this list I prepared earlier and didn't just type out rapidly in a massive fury while John and Tony were going through their lists, a Primaris Chaplain on bike and a Sanguinary Priest with a jump pack would be my 2 HQ units of choice to start out with. The Primaris Chaplain, he's very one-dimensional, but he's a really good one-dimensional beatstick character, so he's a very good start. And the Sanguinary Priest of jump pack, you can't come across many more must-take units in the Blood Angels army these days because of the way he allows other units to go into the Assault Doctrine really early, and how buffing them up into Chief Apothecaries is just broken as all hell right now. Troops-wise, assuming you're going to start with 1,000 points, a bit of a no-brainer buy would be a box of Infiltrators, whom I would build as 2 units of 5 Incursors. I'd also get 5 Assault Infiltrators, which are really easy to pick up from one single Imperium magazine for £8 these days as a back issue or off eBay because somebody got them as a sprue of 5 somewhere. You can pick up dirt cheap. And that's your 2 HQ and your 3 troops straight away. You can then... If you're playing Space Marines, then Space Marines are fairly bland. If you're playing Blood Angels, they've got some character. They've got a bit of soul to them. And that soul is partially Twilight, sparkly Space Angel vampires, but mainly it's flying around on jump packs and killing things. And there's 3 core units that define that more than anything else. And they are a unit of Death Company, a unit of Sanguinary Guard, a unit of Vanguard Veterans. They all do slightly different things. And if you add 1 5-person squad of each of those 3 units onto the 5 units I've just gone through, then you've got almost 1,000 points very conveniently, and you've got 5 units that are exceptionally useful to base any 2,000 point Blood Angel list off on and grow and build from there very, very happily. And the preferred third-party retailer that I mentioned there, and not put them by name because I'm not plugging them, is not Element Games. Just a record. They're actually cheaper than Element Games.
Well, then
have you actually put one on there? I can't see it on there.
I haven't named them, but I've
Is
said
it Goblin Gaming?
No, it's
They're supposed to be quite good.
fine. All right, it's Dark Sphere.
Darksphere, I've heard of them. I think I've bought some Imperial Assault from them before, actually.
Element Games routinely do 15 to 20% off all of their GW stuff. Dark Sphere, without exception, does 25% off.
I use my local bookshop because, you know, I care about my community.
And you've got a mate who runs it and gives you a trade?
Actually doesn't, but...
Does he
I
make
do
sure you
quite
get all the
like-
special limited stock items that you want?
yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Looking at this Black Templar box.
Fair enough.
I thought we agreed last time or the time before that Black Templar box was horrifically overcosted.
Yeah.
We did.
We did. Okay, just asking.
Just
clearing it
Yeah.
up on the record.
I've
So
got a Dreadnought drop pod, which I think might be the worst points per pound that you can buy.
It's one of the worst, yeah. You're not wrong. And a Thunderhawk gunship.
yeah, I was confused.
And a
I was
Thunderbolt
like,
gunship.
what are you
Beautiful.
What are you putting in your Dreadnought drop pod? Because now it's Dreadnoughts with less than 13 wounds, right?
Nah,
You
less
can't-
than 9 wounds.
Less than 9, okay.
Is it 9
Yes,
or
that's-
less or less than 9?
It's 9 or less. So you can just about squeeze a Contemptor in there, but why would you do that? Because all of the good Contemptors have got guns.
True.
That's fair.
And you can put your Librarian
So-
Dreadnought in there with give him Iron Resolve so he has 9 wounds just to really push the envelope.
I'm going Ironclad is what I put in there.
Oh, clever. I actually really liked your point here, Mark, about the squad of Death Company, the squad of Vanguard Vets, the squad of Sanguinary Guard. I mean, if you're getting started, I guess the Vanguard Vets are usually going to be, or in this edition, it's going to be Lightning Claws and Storm Shields.
Yeah, which is how I would advise they be built. All 5 models in excuse me, in that squad.
And then with Death Company, we usually see a ratio of like 1 Thunderhammer for every 4 guys with chainswords, or thereabouts. Some people like to do like 1 in every 3, but
it's also a perfect tactic to build them all with all with chainswords and bolt pistols, and just have them be a pure melee blending unit. It's also a tactic.
Do you know, some people build them all with Thunderhammers, but you don't get enough Thunderhammers in the box to do that, so you'd have to go to eBay. But I think it is a very good point in that, like, probably a year ago now, the core of every single one of my lists was I had a unit of Sandguard, had a unit of Death Company, had a unit of Vanguard Vets. As you say, they all do different things, but they all just do fit really nicely into your 2,000 point list. So you could go a lot worse than what you said there. I mean, I think that any 2,000 point list of Blood Angels can probably benefit from those 3 units.
You may find you swap one out here, you swap one out there, you don't like going all out with the Death Company, you build on them as things go. But as a starting point, you come to play Blood Angels, you come in for the special sauce. And the special sauce, what makes them tick...
Mark, we've talked about this before. You can't just go around on the internet telling people that you're going to give them some special sauce. You know, we're kids, ignore my disclaimer and watch this. And what you've just said to all 9 people that ever watch these episodes is, come on down, get my special sauce.
And the special sauce is Twilight. Go and watch it.
Hey.
If you're listening to anything Tony says, go and watch Twilight. Stop watching this.
Do you know what? I've dropped Vanguard Vets. I don't run them at all anymore.
Why not?
Shit models.
Are they? I mean, I kind of like the
Terrible.
Vanguard Vets.
Well, actually, that's not entirely fair, is it? They're not terrible, but they
because
are
they're
really
firstborn. They're
basic.
really customizable and convertible. They got
They
so
are,
many
which
bits
is
you
great.
can put in them with heads and shoulder pads and all these other little bits.
And if you buy a box of them, and then I don't know, maybe a box of Reavers or something, you could make some really quite nice ones. But they're so squat and they're so unpleasant to paint because they're all like, especially when you start putting storm shields on them. I just hated painting them, and every time I look at them, I just think, I hated my time with you. I just hate you.
Do you know what? So I done Blade Guard Veterans, and I did them in the same scheme as I did Vanguard Veterans. I honestly thought the Blade Guard were more of a pain because, like, Vanguard Veterans have storm shields. Blade Guard have giant storm shields that like obscure the entire side of the model.
All the detail, all the trim. Although the storm shields are actually much more practical when you think about it.
Yeah,
true. Yeah,
and if you use the Indomitus ones, you just take the storm shield off, paint the model, and stick the storm shield back on because it's push fit.
Yeah, if you were smart, you could do that. If you glue everything like I do, then no, you can't do that. You have to.
We can't account for you being a spanner.
Hey, we already agreed you're the melon. Anyway, so I don't know. I don't run Vanguard Veterans either, but I've been running the Blade Guard as well, and
yeah, I do run Blade Guard.
I think that's just a problem. I think we talked about it. Do you know what? I saw a Reddit thread like yesterday that was like, I love my Sanguinary Guard, but they feel like their armor is glass. And I was like, yeah, do you know what? I think it just is. In 9th edition, they went like, Marines, you've got 2 wounds. And then they went, by the way, all these other weapons, they do 2 damage.
Yeah. Have you seen what's happened to Custodes weapons?
Oh, God.
Yeah, flat 2 damage.
I haven't seen it. Custodes.
They're all flat 2 damage.
And Leadership 11.
Yeah, but that's just funny. I love it. That someone's.
Are they actually Leadership 11? I didn't see that.
They are. They have. Their one goes up to 11, and
really,
none more gold.
I'm not sure.
They're flat 2 damage now.
I'm not sure I like the flat 2. It's the same reason I don't run Power Fists, because like if you come up against Death Guard or Dreadnoughts, you just always do 1 damage, whereas at least with the chain fists,
you've got a chance of doing 2.
Yeah, you've got a chance of doing 2. It's only a 33% chance because I guess a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 all still do 1 damage, and then the 5 and the 6, which is 3, comes down to 2. But it's like a 33% chance of doing 2 damage.
Chain fists are good, but they're a meta pick right now, and they're a meta pick because you're facing more and more vehicles.
Yeah, a lot of dreadnoughts, but I wonder if we're going to see less as new armies and that are popping up. We don't know what the tower are going to look like at the time of recording. Most of the Space Marines are out now. We've got some more chaos coming. I don't know how that's going to roll out with the -1 damage.
Space Marine wise, you ain't going to see Dreadnoughts disappearing for a while. Duty Eternal is too strong. I mean, if anything, Relic Contemptors with Volkites are too strong. And
I don't expect to see any new Space Marine models.
I was washing a relic as of a relic contemptor for Volkites yesterday.
The better part of another year or so.
Yeah, exactly. So for another year, Dreadnoughts are going to be front and center.
But what I would say is, if you look at the very top lists and top armies that you're fighting currently in the meta, Death Guard aren't there. I think they're a great codex. I think they're a really balanced codex, but they're not at the very top tables at the moment. We're not seeing Space Marine Dreadnoughts in the top tables. We are seeing lots of things that haven't got that -1 damage. So maybe the flat 2 is not quite such a bad thing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I haven't seen too many tournaments since the AdMech and the Orc nerfs, I guess. So it'll be interesting to see.
We're speculating, but
yeah, it was like a week and a half ago. So, or was it 2 weeks now at this point? Yeah.
I think it'll be 2 weeks this weekend, I think. So yeah, we'd have to.
Episode.
We'll have to see what changes. But yeah, I'm not sure. 2 damage to me doesn't feel that strong. I mean, we complain about the Sanguinary Guards weapons all doing 2 damage because when we come up against things that are -1 damage, they become shit.
So coming back to the root of this, your Sanguinary Guard are your glass cannon damage dealers in terms of the role. And that's not just because of their damage 2 weapons. It's primarily because of the buffs they can stack, the amount of attacks they can have, how fast they can move, all of that. They'll be hitting with a huge amount of attacks with maybe a +1 to hit due to being near to the Warlord. And there can be an Assault Doctrine and a +1 to wound and all this, that, and the other. So they're really reliable to just output huge amounts of damage. Death Company will do the same thing, either doing more damage per hit or less damage per hit, depending on how you build them. I prefer to go less damage per hit for 1 damage and use them as sort of like killy death light infantry blenders. And the Vanguard veterans I'd use as more survivable holders because of the storm shields they can have with the 4++2 up armor save. And you can make them more punchy if you want to. I mean, there's nothing saying you don't have to give them 5 Thunderhammers. It'd be expensive as hell in terms of points, but it would make them hit a lot
and
harder.
Money, because I don't think you get enough to...
You don't get enough Lightning Claws, let alone Thunderhammers. You get 3 of each in your kit, which is a bit of a shame. You only get 4 storm shields in your kit.
Should we look at some models? Let's look at some cool stuff. Some plastic porn.
We're bored if you're talking now, so yeah, just shut up and
you're boring.
No, thanks.
And you're just winging it. You know, you're trying to pretend that you put a lot of effort into this, but you clearly didn't.
Trying to pretend anything like that.
We're all on to you.
There's no pretension.
The audience is on to you. All 9 people watching.
I'm just that good that I can do this on the fly. Yeah.
Do you want my job? You could definitely do it better than me.
What
are we looking at pictures of things we're going to buy, not random pictures of things we've painted? It's not time for the pile of shame, is it?
Okay, you wanted to look at things we were going to buy. Okay, I mean, I didn't get the memo here either, apparently.
I even sent you links.
Oh, you sent links to buying all these models from Games Workshop's website?
I did, yeah.
Was that what that was for?
I planned it. I actually planned this episode.
All right, take it away, Tony.
I can't. He's got the buttons. Should we just move on to Pile of Shame?
You're totally hosting the next one.
Pile of Glory.
You know the next one's completely on your computer, mate, and you're running.
Yeah, eventually I'm going to have to edit it as well because John's just going to go on strike.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing shade everywhere. Where's Gabriel Seth? Is he still shit? Yes.
Indeed, too. Oh.
So we're going on the glory pile then.
Well, we can. I figured these are the pictures that you wanted to show. Yes.
Is that what you've been doing, Tony?
That is what I've been doing.
Awesome.
So I thought I should paint something.
That actually looks quite good.
This was me speed painting desperately because I needed some more troops to take to school for the kids.
I've got to admit, I feel a little bit of moral outrage that you put hazard stripes on Blood Angel models. I don't think they belong there. I think hazard stripes belong on one legion.
Definitely do. Hang on.
If you're not an Iron Warrior, you got no business having hazard stripes and things.
If you get out the old codexes, they for sure have hazard stripes on them.
Yeah, they're covered in hazard
Yes,
stripes.
because
in the
that's
old
before
codexes.
GW gave the tiniest flying fuck about Iron Warriors.
Yeah, all bright colours. We love the old yellow. We love hazard stripes. We love proper red, not this rubbish muted, boring red that we got things on now. This is when Blood Angels were cool. They're still cool, but this is when they were cooler. Every power fist, every chainsword in my army has got hazard stripes on it.
Oh, God.
To be fair, I have been painting hazard stripes on my chain fists.
Duncan Rhodes put out a how-to video for a classic Ultramarines second ed metal Terminator, and he had hazard stripes all over the power fist. Sorry, power glove, and it looked really
Power glove.
cool.
That's because it is cool.
Oh, God.
All of my dreadnoughts, hazard stripes, servo arms, hazard stripes, because they're dangerous, and the enemy need to know that.
The one thing I don't like about these old models is I cannot stand any more of the Goblin Green bases.
They're cool.
I mean, I repainted over all my Goblin Green bases to something like this. How have you done these bases here then?
So what I've got on there is a bit of a wet blend between, actually, strangely, almost GW stuff. So I've got a wet blend between Scrag Brown and actually this Scale 75, like a pale deserty colour. So it's just a wet blend across the base and a little bit of Agrax on the side over some sand. But I've done the whole lot of them like that. So the idea was that they look on bars. That's my whole chapters.
Do you PVA and glue the sand down and then paint?
Yeah, so classic PVA on the sand. So I've got loads. Actually,
have you tried the GW texture paints?
Yeah, I have, but I don't like them. So there's one that's not finished yet. So you can see what it looks when I've Zenith or highlighted it. There's a little gap there. That's where the foot's going to go. This is for a Redemptor. And then, so you just do a wet blend across the whole thing with the colour and paint the rocks in. And that's what I've done for every model in the army.
Cool.
Which I think is quite fun. So yeah, so that's a squad of Assault Intercessors that I very, very quickly speed painted in like 5 hours because I needed them the next day. That was one late night when I definitely should have been planning lessons. But yeah, so that was those. I can't remember what I was going to say now. Yeah.
But I hope the kids watching this.
Buying things. Nobody. Yeah, definitely. There's a disclaimer. All right, it's because I disclaim any sort of like.
No one in real life is allowed to watch this, basically.
Or take it seriously in any way, shape, or form.
I said in there, this is for entertainment purposes. If you get any good advice from it, that's your own fault.
If we talk shit and you take it seriously, more fool you.
Yeah, exactly. Who would listen to us?
So tell us, what is Cult of Paint?
There's a real one. So Cult of Paint is... well, they have a YouTube channel, if you ever look them up. They are made up out of a couple of ex-Golden Demon... Well, can you be an ex-Golden Demon? You're always on Golden Demon winner, aren't you? But they do manufacture a couple of different interesting models. Another picture of that is going to come up shortly. And they ran a Kickstarter recently. I got this snazzy T-shirt from them. And I got myself a set of the Artis Opus Series D dry brushes. The world's most expensive dry brushes. Because I'm too posh for makeup brushes like normal people. Actually, no, I wanted them and it was an excuse. And I said, it's a fancy one. I'll get that in the Kickstarter.
So how much?
They are very nice.
They're like 40, 50 quid for the box?
Yeah, it's about 50 quid, which is a lot of money for some dry brushes. But they do seem very nice. They do feel very well made. The box is gorgeous.
Really if you want to actually paint a base coat with dry brushing, which is a technique the guys who made this show you, it's perfectly possible with these, and it comes out with some really, really good results.
Absolutely. You can get some really nice blends. You can do it really, really quickly. I normally just sort of airbrush it, but I've now got fancy brushes too that I haven't tried out. So yes, the Kickstarter was actually for some models. I do a little bit of, I don't just paint 40k stuff. I do quite a lot of display models as well, sort of competition, rather than just blasting out intercessors in 5 hours. So I only picked up one of the models. I just thought it was cool, the idea of this sort of like elven archer with the eagle for eyes. So yeah, the models are really nice. The paintbrushes are really nice. The T-shirt is cool. I'm quite excited to use it.
I'd like to see that at least built next time we do this.
Yeah, well, I've literally only just got it in the last day or so, so I haven't had time to.
Giving you grief,
but I'm very excited to paint it if I ever get some free time. Hopefully, it's going to be my Christmas project.
Fair enough.
So I have actually used Artist Opal brushes a couple of times myself, and I think I bought the size 1 from Element Games, and from Element it was like £14 for a single brush. But I was really impressed with, I think if you buy one of like the Games Workshop Artificer brushes, it's maybe like $1 or $2 cheaper than the Artist Opal one, and I want to say the Artist Opal one lasted like 10 times longer. Like, you're so I probably paint anywhere from 4 to 10 hours a week. I was able to probably be painting with this brush for about 6 months. And people, when they watch me paint on stream, always tell me, like, don't do this, don't do that, you're doing it wrong.
You make me cry watching you paint.
Yeah, exactly. So I paint apparently really badly for 6 months with the Artist Opal brush, and I was really impressed with it. I think I was going to grab another one soon because it just...
Do you maintain them afterwards? Do you soak them, do all the stuff to clean them?
I give them a quick rinse and, like, stuff?
No. Okay, so no.
You have got some brush soap, have you?
Yeah.
Well, if you've got maybe every couple of weeks, every month or so, I'd just give your brushes a bit of a brush soap clean and a bit of a conditioning, and you'll extend that 6 months out to 2-3 years.
I've got, if I can spot it in the dark, this is an heavy metal paintbrush that I reckon I must have had now for about 12 years, and it's still. These are my best brushes. So these are my Squidmar Mark 1 brushes, and a few others that have mixed in there. I've still got it, and I can still use it today. And I do a fair amount of painting with it. It's still my favourite. But you've got to... Brushes are a really personal thing. So I personally don't like the Artist Opus main kind of like series brushes. No. And the reason is I find the length a little bit too short. There's some quite stabby sort of little brushes. I like big, long bristles with a big belly on it, which just sounds really weird, doesn't it? But I really do like, even with these ones, I like long bristles. I like a big belly. I like it a little bit flexible as well. And I find that some of the Artist Opus ones are quite stiff, which does give you a lot of precision, but I just don't like the way it feels. I tend to use Da Vinci brushes. I've got a few Raphaels that I quite like. The red grass ones aren't too bad as well. But I could go on for hours talking about brushes. I'm a massive nerd when it comes to fancy paints and fancy brushes. Yeah, there's my Chimera paints for Modley. But yeah, so I think brushes are a super personal choice. It's worth trying them out, but they're really expensive. Yeah, so 15, 20 quid a brush is what you'll pay for good ones.
Well, my opinion of the Artist Opal one was what you said. I like precision. My painting isn't got a lot of shading and details, but it is precise. And I felt like I got a lot of precision out of my Artist Opal brush. And I think I'm going to get, like I said, I'm going to get another one. I recommend them over GW brushes any day of the week. I prefer them to both Army Painter and Element Games brushes. And I actually really like the Element Games brushes as well. So,
what did you find with those? One of your viewers sent you a nice set of the new synthetic high-end GW brushes. Did you get much use out of them? What did you think of those?
I've been using some of them as like sort of throwaway brushes. The thing with synthetic brushes that always seems to happen is they don't last, right? I think it's maybe because they don't clean the same. Because I use the brush soap usually after every paint session, but yeah, I mean, I literally have one of them here, and this one was obviously like a large base brush, and yeah, I mean, if you want to use like if you want to base stuff and you want it nice and cheap, because I think the basing brush was about £3, then yeah, I mean, I'd say they're absolutely fine for like basing, and like if you're going battle ready, they're probably fine as well. But if you really want to do fine detail and stuff, I don't think they hold their shape long enough. And what I find with the synthetic ones is they end up having no point. It's almost just like when you have a pencil and it's not got a sharp point, it's just like flat on the top. That's what you end up with. The whole brush, it just feels like round and bit flat, so you end up sort of struggling with it. So
they're not much of an upgrade on the old GW synthetic brushes then?
I don't think so. I mean, big props to the guy that sent them to me. Maybe he didn't want them. I don't know. or maybe he was just a really nice subscriber. But
He's a nice person. I know who it was. He's a nice person.
Yeah,
and he's an incredible painter as well.
Is he? Well, then he
Out of
probably
his
didn't.
way to give you a gift that he thought you
And
would
all you just
appreciate.
slagging it off. I just with throwaways. I do know what you mean. I bought a load of these Arteza ones off of Amazon. I got a massive packet of them, and these are all right, even for oil paints and stuff like that. It's going to ruin my good brushes. They weren't a bad shout, but I was hoping eventually to find some non-Calimsy Sable brushes that are, maybe better than the cheapies from Amazon. But
well, I think I
last a little
bought
bit more than
one.
2 minutes.
I think I bought one more of the synthetic ones after, just because they're cheap, right? Like, I was in lockdown, and during lockdown, a lot of places were actually struggling to sell brushes, and as you guys know, I go through brushes quickly because I'm a fiend with my brushes.
You paint like this.
I don't know if you've noticed this, but I also have a really bad habit of like doing that with the bristles and like trying to straighten them.
I lick the brushes, look.
Yeah, some people do it with their lips, but I just do it with my fat fingers, and that really pisses some people off. They're like, what the hell are you doing? You're ruining the brush. And I was like, I'm doing it like subconsciously. I'm like a fidgeter or something.
If it's your habit that you've grown into over years and years, you're never going to break it either. It's just one of those things that you've come to do.
Exactly.
I reckon that I can recognise most brands of paint by taste. From the times where I've been like, I haven't washed that. And then just put it straight in my mouth. Straight from the wet palette to the model to my mouth. Back to the wet palette.
And then you dip your paintbrush full of paint into your cup of tea rather than your water bottle.
Which we've all done.
Yeah.
Some point, someone's going to go to the bathroom after you and be like, my God, what did this man eat?
And then you reach for your cup of tea to take a sip, and it's actually your paint pot full of painty water.
Which I've also done.
Black.
And I've done it so many times now, I'm completely immune to it, I think.
Oh, God.
There's a whole episode in this. We're getting very sidetracked. There is a whole episode talking about paint brands and brush brands and what's the best red. That's a divisive subject.
We could at least start on what red do you use, but yeah, that's going to be, like you say, a whole episode at least.
That's a
If
whole
we start
episode.
on that now, that'll take us on till 2 in the morning.
2 in the morning, and it's a school night, and apparently I have to teach kids stuff.
And it's currently 10 to 11 in UK time.
Ouch. So let's move on. What have you gentlemen been doing with your spare hobby time?
You want to go first, Mark?
Very, very little hobby-wise. That Thunderhawk that I made shooty meow pew pew noises with last time has been spray painted red.
Nice.
Looking good.
And the
Thunderhawk
rest
meta.
of the time,
I've
I've been playing Forza and not doing any hobby whatsoever.
Oh, have you got Forza 5?
Forza Horizon 5 is lovely and amazing, and it's what a car porn sim game would be if they crossed it with Mario Kart. And I'm having great
See,
fun.
I haven't got into it yet. I liked 4, but I prefer the proper Forza games. I like a little bit more realism.
I don't. They take the realistic car engine of it, which is all well and good, but for me, the joy of a car sim game isn't the fact that you're driving around a photorealistic car with almost perfect physics handling stuff. I want to have fun with it. And a wide open world where I'm driving stuff and there's races and challenges and speed traps.
I do like bombing them off cliffs and things like that.
Yeah,
That's quite
all
fun.
that sort of stuff. I'm having much more fun with Forza Horizon than I would any Gran Turismo or Forza regular game.
I can
If
see
it'd be
that.
Mario Kart is my ideal racing game. There you go.
No, I can't deal with all the shooting bits in it. The only exception to that is Wipeout. I'm an absolute fiend for Wipeout games.
Wipeout is great. Wipeout's a good game.
I like the...
Come on, John, just save
Oh,
us.
have you heard about the new Wipeout game?
No.
It's a Wipeout for mobile.
Oh,
And you don't...
I was so excited. It's a mobile game. John, did you make this?
You don't steer. You press cards to activate what the car is doing at any given moment, and the car you just watch the
That
car
sounds
zoom
shit.
around the track.
I thought you were
Has
going
it
to
even
say
got
you
music
turn
by
the
the
phone,
Prodigy?
and the phone as you turn it is going to be the wheel, and
Yeah,
that sounds exciting.
If
No.
it hasn't got music by the Prodigy and actually just being a good
That's
game,
that's where I was going. I was going to say the Wipeout that I liked the most was the first one that had the friggin'
Smack my bitch up.
it had Firestarter in it without the lyrics, didn't it?
Well, that's how they promoted it, didn't they? So
Yeah.
when they were promoting the original PlayStation, they did because Sony didn't have a gaming wing, so they had the music wing in the UK promoting the PlayStation, and they got the Prodigy on board and they stuck it in loads of nightclubs around the UK.
Yeah. Before
on the big
Final Fantasy
screens and
7
that.
came along and made it a
Before
must
Final
purchase.
Fantasy 7 came out and made it a mass purchase with Wipeout, and that was like their big selling hitter. And I remember that. I'm old. Well, I wasn't old enough to be in a nightclub.
I'll tell you what, though, Wipeout on the PlayStation VR, that's a trip and a half. Oh my god. That's an experience.
I wish I liked it, but I've got a VR set and it just makes me vomit. Motion sickness. I can't cope with it. It just makes me sad. But I've got every Wipeout. I love it.
That was so long
Hobby
ago
stuff.
that
We're getting off topic again.
I want to say that I played that Wipeout at Comet. Do you remember Comet?
Yeah.
I do, yeah.
I worked at... I had a job while I was at high school, working at Dixon's, whose sister store to Curry's at the time, and Comet was one of their competitors. And
there's my copy.
Oh my god!
Man, I actually need to get the original. I like the Prodigy in it. Yeah, no, I've been working on my tournament list, I guess, since we came away from that 4-1 finish, where I failed quite. It was so good to get to the top table.
You didn't fail. You won 4 games in a row, some of which were really hard games and not against Tau. And then you had a really hard game right at the end.
Smashed by Grey Knights.
By an army that you didn't know and you weren't prepared for and hadn't faced before. And it was a learning experience. And that is absolutely nothing to be ashamed of in the slightest, even though we all know that you're salty as fuck about it. So
they are so good at the moment.
I don't know if I'm salty. I'm more upset with myself in that, like, I played badly. I didn't, like, in some of my other games. Yeah, I played pretty badly in the final. Like,
I saw that list though. That list was brutal. It was a phenomenal. I don't remember who your opponent was, but that list was. I looked at it and thought,
something, if I recall
wow,
correctly.
that is an awesome list.
The game,
yeah, this guy really knew his army, knew what to pick, knew what was good.
The game against the Tempest Scions, which we talked about, and we did a bit of prep over on the stream, was actually like a crazy tough game. It was probably one of the toughest games that I ever played in 40k. And when I get round to reviewing it on my channel, basically in the final turn, he needed to advance a unit and hit the middle objective, like an OBSEC unit. If he managed to hit the middle objective with his OBSEC unit, he would have stolen that middle objective and got 2 more points for direct assault, which would have tied the game at like 89-89. And he rolled a 1 on his advanced roll and he had no CP left. So like in a fucked up way, like if he'd rolled better, he would have probably gone to the top table because he'd scored higher in his previous games than me. So like,
and then he'd have been beaten and you'd have finished higher than him.
And I would have finished second probably. But I think it was better to get to the top table because if I ever want to win a GT, I need to be experienced playing on the top table, and I was not experienced. But what was really annoyed me, I wasn't salty that I got beat. What was annoying to me is, like, seeing the previous game against the Tempest Scions when he had, let's say, like 50 things that can deep strike in. I had all my units positioned beautifully. Like, there was the only unit he managed to deep strike in was the Calidus Assassin, because he rolled like a 3, so she could come in 6 inches away. There was nowhere else. The screening was perfect. I held half the board. I was really pleased. And then in the final, for whatever reason, I just went like, oh, fuck it, I'm not going to screen properly at all because he's Grey Knights and he's put everything on the board. But that doesn't matter with Grey Knights because he's going to be able to redeploy literally everything with a teleport strike.
Teleport all over the place.
And
yeah.
I knew that, but
and everything else,
the problem, I guess, was that, like, we talked about it.
Knowing it in your head and having internalized what it can do are, 2 different things.
Yeah, and because I'd never played against it before, when he started doing it, I was like, oh, I done fucked up. You know, like, but at this point, like it's like I was already on the back foot because I already didn't know enough about his army. So he already had a bit of an advantage, and then that started happening, and I was like,
You said it was a pretty local GT. Is the player this local-ish as well? Could you get him over to yours for another game, perhaps?
No, some people actually travelled pretty far for this GT.
Yeah.
Like you're talking like 200-300 miles, I guess.
Wow,
So
okay.
not that local at all, really.
Appreciate Scotland is deceptively huge. It's fair.
It is quite large.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually 3.5 hours north of Glasgow, which is,
That really is the arse
something
end
to
of nowhere,
consider.
that is.
Yeah.
like I've had a few friends from England before be like, oh, we'll come and visit you. Like Glasgow's just a few hours away. Where are you? And I'm like, yeah, like
That is taking antisocial to the next level.
180 miles north of Glasgow, and once you get within 100 miles, there's no dual carriageway. So it's just one lane one way and one lane the other way. And if you're behind a lorry that wants to do 40 miles an hour, then good luck.
There's a dual carriageway from Glasgow to Inverness, though, isn't there?
No. Bits of it are dual carriageway.
Up past Loch Ness.
They are working on it, but I think they're trying to get it dual carriageway for 2025.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Going back to the Grey Knights, just because we're not
Sure.
the fucking AA podcast.
Sure, we're going back to Grey Knights.
Do you know what
Yes,
struck
Tony.
me? Caldor Drago is fucking broken.
I was
How
more
good
worried.
is he?
I was more worried about the fucking librarian that jumped forward.
A million
Uh,
wound boy.
He gets to cast 3 powers. The first one does like 3 plus D3 mortal wounds, so that's like an average of 5 mortal wounds. He's able to cast on 3d6 because and pick the 2 highest, or I don't even know if it's pick the. Yeah, it must be pick the 2 highest. So he's able to cast on 3d6. He can do 3 plus d3 mortal wounds. Then he can smite, and of course, being at the top table and being that I'm inexperienced, he rolls the 11 or whatever, so he gets the super smite for another like 5 mortal wounds, and then he can cast a third power. I don't even remember. At that point, I was like, "Oh great, I have 11 mortal wounds on my blade guard, and we've not even got started."
You can do 22 mortal wounds in a turn. But back to Drago. What the fuck? Who wrote this guy? 3 plus invuln.
Oh yeah,
Damage 3 Titan sword -4. So strength 8, 3 damage. Basically a power, a thunder hammer with -4 AP, and a 3
you are
plus
familiar with
invuln.
the concept of
and
power
6
creep, right?
Yeah, I know, but this guy's for such a crap model.
Okay.
Because I've never looked at him. I've got the codex, as you can see, and I've built some horrible grandmasters and I've built some horrible librarians and that. But then I saw him pop up in that list, and I was like, "Why have you got a special character in this? Special character is shit. Not that one."
Well, episode 5 for 3 Grots on a Podcast will be getting started with Grey Knights, how to win every game and only spend $100. I don't know.
Just bring.
It won't be. We've got a
Caldor
schedule,
Drago.
and that's not.
That's
part
not
of
on the
this.
schedule.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. The schedule is immutable, guys. It can't be
Well,
changed.
I
Can't be
suppose
changed.
it could change, yeah.
No, because the next episode's a Christmas.
No,
episode,
because
isn't it?
John came up with. Tony came up with the schedule, and therefore it's got to be what it's got to be.
The next
yeah.
episode is a Christmas episode, and that is going to be
Is it?
awesome. I've written it. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Um,
right. Next episode is the OP bullshit episode. That's right.
That's supposed to be a surprise.
Was it? Oh, John
Oh,
edited
yeah.
that out. That's fine. Don't worry.
But in painting terms, I've been painting my Volcons because Volcons are arguably broken, and I think I'm going to add some more Sanguinary Guard and add more Incursors because, Blood Angels, these things are good. And yeah, so if people want to see me paint, they can see me paint some night over on my channel at some point. I hope one of you guys will paint on this channel as well. I'm sure somebody would love to see.
Have we got live stream privileges yet, or are we still too insignificant and whatnot?
I think with 100 subscribers, we can apply for it now. Yeah,
The hundreds. We are hitting the big time now.
I think you need 500
Like,
to do.
comment and subscribe.
Or I think you either need 500 or
Right, that's right,
1,000 to live stream for a mobile phone, because when we went to Clan Wars, me, Colin, and Andrew were sitting in the bar drinking the night before the tournament, obviously, because this is wise. I mean, like, I was drinking a little. Andrew, yeah, I guess they were drinking a little bit more than me, but
And
Colin-
Colin was drinking the place dry because he's Colin.
Colin he does like to have a drink, and he was like, "Can we live stream on my phone?" And I was like, "Are you sure this is a good idea?" And he's like, so apparently we didn't have enough subscribers to live stream on the phone, but maybe it was for the best.
Fair enough.
But yeah, Clan Wars was an interesting tournament, so yeah. Do you want to move on to the final part of today's episode then?
I just want to say quickly, in terms of actual hobby stuff, the reason why I'm taking a break at the moment and not doing too much is because I'm staring a couple of projects down the throat that I'm sort of building myself up for. I want to start Craftworld Eldar when they get re-released early in the new year, and I'm trying really, really hard to convince myself not to buy some AOS Dragon Riders, because I just love the idea.
They
of
are
Dragon
very
Riders.
nice, aren't they? They are really nice.
I've been a fan of Dragonlance since I was little, and the idea of an army of dragons with lances just charging the enemy just sounds really cool.
Yeah, I can get behind that. Have we got a last section of the video, John?
I was going to say, well, sometime we could maybe talk about Sigmar as well, because I have a completely unopened Sigmar army. Like, the whole thing, like 1,000 points, 2,000 points.
What is it? What army? What race?
Iodep Deepkin.
Ideneth Deepkin.
Yes. And I have everything with Turtle.
I wanted to paint the turtle.
Yeah,
I don't care about the rest of the army.
They're super cool looking.
So I've got about 1,500 points of Lumineth Realm Lords that I've yet to play a game with, having started to buy them when they got released a year and a half ago.
I bought the little crab.
Oh, cool.
It came with other models, but I bought it for the crab.
Oh, yeah, of course you did. I mean, that's how it works.
That was Underworlds, wasn't it?
Yeah. If you got an AOS army, Tony, what would it be?
Well, I did buy the Dominion box set because I'm a sucker.
You were one of the 2 people in the world who bought it.
Exactly. I couldn't give a toss about the Sigmarines, but I'm still bitter that Fantasy ended. I loved Fantasy.
Did you just want to take the wings off that one model and use it in a Blood Angel conversion or something? Is that why you bought it?
No, I wanted the Orcs. They were so cool. The Swampy Boys.
It does seem very strange that they've given Fantasy these very Blood Angels like awesome characters. Like, have they forgotten about us in 40k?
Well, I've seen some fantastic Sanguinary Guard conversions out of those. But no, I wanted the Orcs. I loved them. I thought they were so cool. And
I appreciate the idea.
I wanted the Stabby Grot and the Pot Grot.
I appreciate the idea behind the Stormcast Eternals, but they really are just Sigmarines. Generic, armoured, teleporting, huge choice.
We've just isolated at least 7 of the 9 people that watch this.
I don't care.
But no, I just don't like them. And I did like Fantasy, and I collected Dark Elves, and immediately had to put my whole army in the bin. And the other army I collected was the Empire, and I had to put them in the bin. And then I like Bretonians as well, that went in the bin. Next to the Tomb.
Why are they going in the bin?
Kicking around because they didn't carry them across. There's still no Bretonians in Age of Sigmar.
Aren't they like legacy rules and stuff, and Cities of Sigmar and all this sort of thing? And
not for Bretonians.
No.
Cities of Sigmar brought most of the Empire stuff in, and a lot of the Dark Elf stuff has slowly made its way across, although mine are all on square bases. But for the Bretonians, they just get to ride their horses in nothingness because they decided that the Shiny Knight boys and their bows and arrow boys and the Damsel in Distress and the Green Knight can all just go fuck themselves and live on only in Total Warhammer 2, which is a great game when I've played too many hours of.
So when they come back on square bases in Warhammer Reborn or whatever, you're just going to be... I'm
going to be standing at the front of that line to buy that, along with the Horus Heresy army that I definitely want to buy if they ever release that new box.
Fair enough. Which you're going to paint as Blood Angels, right?
Yes and no. I don't know, to be honest, because I quite like my Blood Angels, but I've painted a lot of them now, and there's a little bit that's tempted to paint another Legion. I might go with
Word Bearers.
A little bit. I was thinking Alpha Legion, actually. I fancy painting that kind of metallic scheme.
Strange metallic-y blue-green two-tone thing.
I think that might be quite a fun thing to paint, and as we've established, I'm more interested in that than actually ever playing with these models.
Yeah, fair enough.
I quite like the Tomb Kings from Warhammer Fantasy.
Well, tough, because they've all been killed.
I like the Egyptian undead aesthetic idea behind them. I could just never get behind playing them personally.
Did you guys ever play Warhammer Online?
Yes.
Very, very shortly. Not for a long time at all.
And did you
That's all right, because it didn't last very long either.
No, it didn't last very long, but did you get to Endgame when they released that Tomb Kings expansion?
No, when I say a short time, I'm talking like log on half an hour, log off again, never reload it again.
No, I played it all the way to like max level, which I think at the time was level 40, and it was the same as Warcraft, and you had tiers of dungeons you had to go through, and you had to get the drops in like the first dungeon to move on and so forth. So I was at tier 3, which was the final dungeon. And when they released the expansion of the Tomb Kings, there was one thing that they did in that expansion that was I've never seen another MMO do, and it was really interesting. So imagine you're going to go to do a raid in an MMO, whatever raid it may be, and the whole zone that the raid was in, where the Tomb Kings were, was either controlled by the Empire, or Destruction. Mm-hmm. And if you started your raid, let's say you're 4 or 5 raid bosses in, if the zone flipped, like back in the main world, the enemy could now come into your instance that you were doing the raid in, and they could run from the beginning of the raid to you, and if they got to you, they could kill you, and then go on and continue the raid.
Okay.
Which I thought was really interesting, in that you could be in the middle of a boss fight, halfway through this raid, and it was just like a hostile party has entered your dungeon. I was like, this is actually really cool, but I mean, in hindsight, I don't think it worked too well, because like you were usually fighting shit, and then this other party just steamrolled over top of you.
This immensely PvP mechanic in a massively PvP focused MMO, and you're all about the win in Warhammer. It kind of says a fair bit.
Yeah, but I mean, that game. Unfortunately, the game didn't last very long after that expansion. But I did think that was a cool, interesting play.
Shitty mobile MMO for Warhammer, isn't there? That popped up quite recently.
Odyssey,
something like that. Yeah, I had to go at that. But
make it.
Probably. Did you ask if I made it? No, we didn't make it.
It was terrible. So, I mean, I don't know anything about MMOs. I played a tiny bit of Warhammer Age of Reckoning just because I liked fantasy, and then I tried to play Final Fantasy 14 or whatever that is, and all that happened was some guy was dancing, and I was just like, "What the fuck is this?"
I've got no idea if most of the audience here can see the massive amount of World of Warcraft posters going down the side of my wall.
Never played it. I'm too scared of being completely addicted and like massively getting into it, and B, I hate everybody. Hate other people. So the idea of multiplayer just it fills me with disgust. It's like I kickstarted that 40k MMO thing that ended up not being a 40k MMO, just being a shit death match. And I put quite a lot of money into it, and then my brother at the time was like, "But you hate online games." I was like, "Yeah, but I like Warhammer." He's like, "But you hate online games because you don't like interacting with other people." And I was like, "Well, yeah, but I like Warhammer."
Oh, we could have a stream where the three of us try playing Gloomhaven on Steam. That'd be awesome.
Well, we could play what's the new one coming out? Dark Tide.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's due out next year at this point.
Yeah, so maybe we can play that. And
are you guys aware of Gloomhaven? Do you know it at all?
Yeah, I do know it. I've always wanted the big box, but I haven't going to be able to store it.
It's 75 quid on Amazon for Black Friday, apparently, I hear.
Okay, ooh, nice.
But it is also
Warhammer, I'll buy it.
Effing huge, and takes a half hour, 3/4 hour to set up, and the same to take down again afterwards. So, yeah,
it's just like 40k then.
Pretty much. But they did
really.
What?
Sorry, no, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's right. They did a really, really good video game version of it that's just come out of early access in the last few weeks. It's like 25-30 quid on Steam at the moment. And you can play it 1 to 4 player co-op, and it's
let us know in the comments if you're still watching and want us to play that on stream.
Yeah, and you can hear us have massive amount of frustrations at each other for doing exactly the wrong thing at exactly the wrong time, and it all going horribly wrong. And then one person dies early because they mismanaged their cards and all this other stuff. It'll be great.
So, I think looking at the time, it is actually about that time to call it.
Yeah.
Call it what?
I don't know. Call it. This should have ended about 20 minutes ago.
All right, but we kept on waffling bollocks.
About things that only Anne person cares about.
Okay.
You're a melon. You really are.
Like and subscribe.
Like, comment, more, and subscribe.
I still think we should have called this my original name for this: 3 middle-aged men talking bollocks for an hour and a bit. And I still think that's a better name for this podcast.
One day, I want to get to the point where you can hire the guy who plays James Workshop to say like, comment, and subscribe to this video.
I mean, you did a pretty good impression. We get those face overlays that you get on mobile, and just do that.
Deep fake me as James Workshop. Okay. That's a horrible thought. Please nobody do that.
If we start going down the deep fake rabbit hole, bad things are going to occur, aren't they?
Yeah, no, don't do that.
Well, we have been 3 Grots. You, the audience, have been awesome. Tony has been a melon. Mark has been himself. And we will be back with a Christmas-themed episode in the very near future.
Yeah, I'm not too sure I'm going to Christmas theme it, but it'll be fun.
See you in 2 weeks.
Toodles.
Bye.
Bye-bye.